What's going on, you bunch of lost plagas? I'm SystemCheck66. It's a new day, a new dawn. With Resident Evil 3 Remake out of the way, we are now lined up for the next Resident Evil game because they want to get these out annually, which is extremely disappointing. And so we have some leaks and we have some rumours. Now, I would take these leaks or these rumours with a huge handful of salt. You know, they might not be on the mark, but for now it's all we've got. So let's get straight into them. And I must warn you that this does spoil some of the plot or supposed plot of this game, as well as there's tons and tons of leaks, at least for the first half, and like the second chapter or something of the game. So yeah, if you don't want to know, don't listen. I'm reading this directly from GameByte. So the publication has collated tidbits from various different sources, all of whom claim to have been testing the game since March of this year. According to the leaks, the next RE title will be called Village Resident Evil, with the VILL standing in for the Roman numeral for 8, much like RE7. However, the game is going to be called Village first and foremost, and then Resident Evil underneath, so it's kind of weird. Sources also called the game's opening shocking for long-standing fans to the series, claiming it involved Chris Redfield sporting a new look. And there's some, I'll add to that. I've read that it basically starts off with Ethan Winters and Mia. Mia is either pregnant or she already has a child, you know, she already has the baby. I think that they've basically made two different versions of this demo to catch leakers and stuff. That's what I've been reading, that's why they did it. They do it with films as well, they do different cuts. And basically Ethan and Mia have secluded themselves in this village, this Eastern European village, from what I could tell, from what I read. And you get to talk to some of the NPCs around the village, like these people. They're very religious apparently, and they have a lot of faith, you know, and they say there's weird stuff that's been happening kind of in the hills and stuff, you know, where this village is situated. And there's weird stuff going on with this castle that's kind of just outside of the village. And then a zombie attacks. Apparently there's an infected. He attacks the villagers, you know, Blue Umbrella show up, they take out the infected, but then they start to try and kill innocent people, like people aren't infected. And Ethan obviously tries to stop them. He gets injured and knocked out as far as I can tell. And before he passes out, he sees Chris get on a helicopter and Blue Umbrella fly off, right? So it's kind of strange, it's kind of weird. Like, that's why maybe people are thinking Chris Redfield might be a bad guy in this. I'm not too sure. But then when Ethan wakes up, he's able to talk to the villagers that have survived. And they tell him, you know, that Mia and the baby, or pregnant Mia, have disappeared. They've gone, so someone's captured them. So apparently during this time, you have to fight like werewolves, or these werewolf-type BOWs, these bioweapons that look a little bit like werewolves. They're obviously not going to be werewolves, but they're going to resemble werewolves. So you fight those, but they're quite hard to put down with a handgun. It's not until you get a shotgun that you can actually take them on. Ethan apparently does get to the castle, and along the way you get chased by this witch-type enemy, which has been, you know, leaked and I've covered before. And essentially, if you do defeat her, she turns into like a bunch of bugs or something, a little bit like Marguerite. That's how she acts. So it's very strange, a lot of psychological, paranormal things going on. Some weird enemies. Apparently later on there's going to be zombies in sort of suits of armor and stuff like that. It's kind of strange, like I said, because, you know, RE7 is set in kind of present day, or at least back then it was set in present day. Most Resident Evil titles try to set their games during present day. And it's a bit strange because there's a lot of medieval stuff going on in this game. So I'm not too sure as to how the suits of armor, you know, why the bioweapons look like werewolves, why they look like witches. I'm not too sure as to where they're going with that. Not sure if Chris is a bad guy or there's an underlining thing there. I mean, in RE7, you know, it was underlining that these people weren't normal. The Bakers weren't normal. And Chris and Blue Umbrella, their job is just to go in and clean up the biohazard, you know. If Ethan and Mia were infected still, I think Chris and Blue Umbrella would have taken them out. So it's up in the air as to what's going on. But from Ethan's point of view, it seems like there's some villagers that haven't been infected and Chris and Blue Umbrella are just wasting them. It reminds me a little bit of RE0, where Billy Cohen's team, you know, are his sort of like group of soldiers that he's with, are in Africa, and they just wipe out loads of like civilians, basically, like villagers, and Billy tries to stop them. And it's a similar thing with this. That's what it reminds me of. I'm still holding out hope that Chris is actually Hunk and he's just adopted the Chris Redfield name, because he did look extremely different in RE7 at the ending. But that could just be a redesign, and because of fan backlash, maybe Capcom have now retconned that and he is someone else. I don't know. He could be Hunk, he could be someone just impersonating Chris Redfield, or the most cheesiest and goofiest option is that he's a clone. He's an evil clone. They were going to try this with Revelations 1. They were going to have an evil Chris clone, which I was like, no, that's fucking stupid. They got rid of it, thank God. They changed that. And then they tried to make Chris bad, or sort of like an anti-hero in RE6. You know, he was a drunk fucking arsehole, essentially. And yeah, they've tried this making Chris bad thing, like, for a long time, and no one wants that. I don't want to see Chris as a bad guy. That's just stupid. We are forgetting Ada's plot in RE6, where she had a clone. You know, there was a clone of Ada, so they have fucked around with the clone idea. That's all stuff and remnants from the films, and the films suck balls. So I wish they would stop trying to copy the films. Even the new RE3 remake, the intro it's so much like Apocalypse in some ways. There's certain things that just remind me of Apocalypse, and yeah, like, as much as I thought the intro was good, and they did it better, way better than the films could ever do, you know, thematically and visually, I still thought, come on, like, do you know what I mean? There's hints of the film, like, creeping in here, and yeah, I'm not a big fan of that. Like, film suck balls. So here's a full rundown of the leaks, just basically bullet points. Game starts with an unspecified mountain village, like RE4, but with snow. And that's the thing, people have said it's been likened to RE4 the most, but it's like first person. Villagers are very religious and spiritual, like I mentioned. Ethan, Mia, and their child lived there after the events of RE7 to lay low. Native villagers talk about something weird happening in the mountains, mining of sorts, very Resident Evil 4, with the Plagas. Suddenly a villager comes in acting funny. Oh no, zombie. So zombie. Ethan fights his village outbreak while Mia protects the baby. Suddenly, Blue Umbrella comes in, wiping out the infected. A lot of villagers escape. Ethan tries to stop Blue Umbrella from killing innocents, but cannot. Ethan gets injured and knocked out. Chris Redfield can be seen leaving in a helicopter. Blue Umbrella leaves thinking they killed everything. Ethan gets up. He goes to find his family. He finds his hut empty. He's worried. Continues searching to find a wounded elder-type villager. Villager tells him to go to the castle far in the mountains to get help. He gives him advice on how to get there. Must go through mines to get there. Tells him spiritual things. Ethan doesn't care for it, but listens. Ethan goes off on his journey to find his family and get vengeance. Mines are huge and also a lab inside, kind of. Werewolves are not what you think. You can fight them, but I'm not going into it. Much like RE4, laugh out loud, just first person, but with spiritual elements much like prototype RE4. As much info as I'm in the know with, I don't know, he puts as I'm know-ish, can't write properly, may or may not be true. At the end, may or may not be true. That's an understatement. So a lot to process and get through. There's a lot of leaks and rumours and just hearsay at the moment. I've heard that this was a spin-off game. This was actually going to be Revelations 3, but they changed it to RE8, and there is actually a version of RE8 still out there that's still being worked on, or possibly scrapped. But this is essentially Revelations 3, but redesigned as Resident Evil 8. So I think that the whole werewolf, you know, night zombies, witches thing was probably a tester for Revelations 3, and then they thought, no, this could work as a main canon entry. Why they thought this, I don't know, but they're going to do it. Now, the thing is, it shares a lot in common with RE4. First off, village, RE4. Giant castle in the mountains, you know, just past the village, very Resident Evil 4. The whole mining aspect, I mean, in RE4, the villagers in that game, they were mining, like, ages ago, and they upset some of the spores. Some of the Plaga spores got into them, infected them, and that's how the Plagas were born, you know, and rose to power in Resident Evil 4. So that's very similar. In RE5, they have, like, you know, mines and stuff as well. So similar things there. So I don't know if we'll be collecting gems and all that other stuff that we did from RE4 to RE6. But that could be a possibility, definitely. So now the leaks also say, and the leakers also say, that it is first person and many purists are going to hate it because it's taking some serious departures in the story, enemies, and the like. They later added hallucinations, occultism, insanity, and not being able to trust others are huge thematics of the game. That's interesting. Eurogamer are such shills, man. Sorry, I'm just reading. It says, Eurogamer review was admitted his expectations were set with the incredible Resident Evil 2 remake in mind, adding Jill is a triumphant character and there are moments of genuine brilliance. while feeling as though he's coming down a little too hard on the Resident Evil 3 remake. No, I'm sorry. Capcom had their little renaissance period with DMC5, RE2 Remake and RE7, and now they're losing their footing again and they're slipping. RE3 Remake is a 7 out of 10 at best. Some leaks say Chris Redfield will appear in flashbacks with Ethan and his family, where he seems to shoot his way into their house, although whether this is a hallucination or some kind of twist is unclear. Now, they do say hallucinations and misdirection, being afraid of people and the places you find yourself in, will play a role quite heavily in terms of gameplay. So, Ethan will be walking around, he might think there's like a bunch of villagers coming after him, but in reality it's a hallucination, or the walls might start moving and doing weird shit, but that will be like a hallucination. That bell you're hearing in the background is actually my cat. She decided to start making noise as I'm recording. Such is the way of life. But anyway, moving on. So I have actually read, I can't actually find it, but I'm just going to tell you guys, the werewolves, how they sort of play a part in sort of the game and in terms of gameplay, is at first they just sort of rush Ethan, they come after him. I believe you find some in the mine and you meet some maybe in the village as well, as far as I know, and then basically the handgun has no real effect and you have to end up sort of sneaking past them. It's very much like Resident Evil Revelations 2 when you're sneaking past those invisible things and some of the enemies, and the lickers in RE2 Remake. And so you sneak past them because basically a regular handgun doesn't do anything to them, doesn't down them. And then they'll chase you and you'll have to board up like windows and doors and stuff to keep them out and, escape them. And then you eventually do happen across a shotgun. And I believe people said it might be in the mines that you find it. And there's also a lab area in the mines. So I'm thinking something very similar to Resident Evil 7's lab, Lucas's lab that was in that mine. So yeah, something similar, but kind of not even halfway, but at the beginning of the game. So when it comes to Resident Evil 8 and the rumours and leaks, I really don't know if they're true, but 9 times out of 10 these usually come out to be quite true. The way I look at things is they're trying to mix RE4 with Resident Evil 7 mixed with obviously RE4 concepts, RE3.5. I don't know, because it doesn't sound as unique as RE7, in my personal opinion. RE7 changed location, it was in a real place, Louisiana, Obviously we were back in a mansion, but it was this interesting, more realistic take on a mansion. And while of course I love the Spencer Mansion, the training facility from Zero, the RPD, all those great locations, I still liked the Baker's Mansion. I thought it was really cool, their residence, it was quite cool, and the swamps and stuff. It was ultimately a breath of fresh air and something a little bit different from what we were used to, and I liked RE7 for that. And that's not the only thing I liked it for. I liked that it was returning back to survival horror. It was a more stripped back Resident Evil experience, like the original, like the RE2 remake, like the original Resident Evil 2. Just, like Code Veronica, it was more a stripped back experience and horror experience, and it built things up and had payoffs to those build-ups as well. And I like that in horror. That's my favourite type of horror. Yeah, I liked RE7. I did. I really liked it. But it could have been a completely different thing entirely. Like, it didn't have to be linked to Resident Evil and it still would have worked. It still would have been an enjoyable survival horror game, even if it wasn't a Resident Evil title or even linked to the rest of the series and the Resident Evil universe. And it could have easily been its own thing, definitely. And that's always playing in my head every time I play it. It's a great game in its own right, but it could literally be its own thing. Same with RE4. Same way that I feel with RE4, although it does feel like it links a bit more to the previous Resident Evil games, but then again, I don't know, it could also be its own thing, This isn't the first time the series has had massive departures, Resident Evil 4 being one of them, RE7 being another. This series is always trying to reinvent itself, and I guess that's kept it fresh in some ways, but a lot of us miss the old school, vibes and feelings and tonality of the original trilogy on the PlayStation 1, and then the remake on GameCube, and even Code Veronica on the Dreamcast. We missed that era of Resident Evil, when it was hitting those heights and it was always coming out with something new and impressive and interesting. And I do think they always came out with new ideas and new things and interesting things, even though they used the same template and the same gameplay and fixed camera angles. I think it just worked at that point in time the best, and I'll always remember that era of Resident Evil. I think that Capcom definitely had a renaissance period with DMC5, like I said, RE2 Remake and RE7, but I feel like they're losing their footing after RE3 Remake, because that isn't that great, you know what I mean? It's okay, it's an okay game, and it's a subpar remake of Resident Evil Nemesis, 1999. So yeah, I do feel like they're losing their footing once again, and I feel like they're trying to appease everyone again, like RE6 tried to do. You know, people had an issue with Chris's redesign in RE7. There was backlash. So Capcom are trying to say, if these leaks are real and this is true, they're trying to say, okay, he's not Chris, he's like a bad Chris, he's a clone, or he's Hunk impersonating Chris, or whatever they're going to do with him. That's because I think there was backlash, and they're trying to appeal to the fans that were, you know, throwing shade at them and stuff. And at the end of the day, when it comes to a decision like that, I'm not talking about other decisions like cutting stuff out of the RE3 remake. That's bad. Fans are right in what they're saying, and the backlash for that. But when it comes to redesign of a character, you know, making him look more realistic. Now, me personally, I had to get used to it, definitely. It was a massive departure from his older look and design. I had to get used to it. Once I played the Not a Hero DLC and I started to get his mannerisms and see how he acted and how his character was portrayed in that DLC, I grew to like him. I thought, no, it's fine. I like his redesign. Some people absolutely hate it. Some people don't mind it. There you go. That's just the Resident Evil community and fan base in general. It's very balanced when it comes to love and hate. Or likes and dislikes, however you want to see it. But my overall thoughts about these leaks and Resident Evil 8 and what it sounds like and what I've read is, I'm not that surprised, to be honest. It just sounds like it's borrowing something from RE4. It's borrowing something from RE 3.5, and it's borrowing from Resident Evil 7, you know, with the first-person gameplay returning characters and the witch acting like Marguerite. But at the same time, it's borrowing from Resident Evil 4 with the occult, you know, there was cultists in RE4. I forget what their names were. It was Sadler and Los Illuminados, I believe. So we had all that stuff, and they have their own kind of church and things like that, which I thought was really cool, their own kind of religion. In this, it seems like the villagers and stuff are going to be quite religious, and this is, if you want to know my theory about what's going on in the story, this is just me theorizing. I believe that it's a post-bioweapons world. You know, they've already been sold on the black market. That was the basis for Resident Evil 7's storyline. You know, the fact they were transporting Evelyn to whoever it was, and the tanker crashed, you know, in the bayous of Louisiana, in Dolby. And Evelyn got out and then infected, you know, the bakers and the whole house and stuff like that. So it's going to continue from that. Now, here's where it gets a little bit complicated. And not complicated in a silly way, but actually quite clever. I believe that villagers, as well as townsfolk and people just around that area, probably worship or, I don't know, pray to something. Maybe there's a certain sect of villagers that pray and worship this almighty force, you know, this almost godlike being, okay? And I'm not talking about Devil May Cry, like Urizen type of god, you know, boss and things like that. I'm talking about a bioweapon like Evelyn that could be construed or misconstrued as something godlike and really powerful. And the villagers, being that they're maybe secluded from the modern world, you know, maybe removed quite a lot from technology and stuff like that, and that's why Ethan and Mia have moved to this, wherever it is in Eastern Europe. I believe they're quite a way away from the modern world and they don't have a lot of technology. And so when this bioweapon comes along, starts, I don't know, mutating shit, using all these kind of crazy powers and stuff, it can influence people, it can cause hallucinations, send people crazy, infect them, just like Evelyn could do. I believe that the villagers will treat this as some kind of religious being or something, or end of days, or this godlike being, you know, or even a demon or a devil, I don't know. So that's where the occult and the religious sides of things come into play, and that's why that elder villager, you know, is talking to Ethan and giving him all this kind of religious talk. And Ethan, being Ethan, is probably like, yeah, whatever, dude, do you know what I mean? Like, don't really want to hear about all that, but I'll listen anyway. So, I mean, we can go even deeper, you know, the werewolves, the witches, maybe the bioweapon, whatever it is, has taken inspiration from folk tales, or I don't know, it's seen some scriptures and stuff that depict werewolves, depict witches, and maybe that's why these bioweapons resemble werewolves and witches. That's just a theory on my part and just something that I'm spitballing. But yeah, I think that would be really cool if that was the reason for the bioweapons, the new bioweapons looking like werewolves and witches. As it is, I don't think Capcom are going to go that deep. I think we're just going to get some bioweapons that look and resemble werewolves and witches. As for the zombies in knight's armor, I really don't know. That's something I can't elaborate on or even come up with a theory about. I mean, the Plagas were in suits of armor in the castle in Resident Evil 4, but RE4 was just so, like, out there and so silly, you know, in a good way, that I never questioned it, to be honest. We always had, like, ceilings trying to crush us with spikes, and a small midget dude, you know, like, who was infected, who was, like, a really powerful Plaga. and a Castillon of the castle, and then we had these Plagas in knight's armor. It just made sense that maybe in the castle the Plagas would have donned the armor and wait for people to, you know, get their heads chopped off by them. But zombies in armor, I mean, with the Plagas, they're smart, they're intelligent. You can imagine them donning the armor, you know, putting it on. With zombies, like, they're kind of thick and stupid. So I don't know if these are smart zombies or if someone's just dressed them up in the armor. Who knows? Like I said, if the villagers are almost worshipping this demon-like creature, this deity as they would see it, you know, this bioweapon, this all-powerful bioweapon that's more powerful than Evelyn, then maybe they took the zombies, dressed them up in armor, I don't know, and they used them as royal guards almost. I don't know how they're going to do that, explain that, but yeah, overall, mix of Resident Evil 7, mix of RE 3.5, mix of RE4, that's what we're looking at in first person for the next installment in the Resident Evil series, which will be, of course, this, Resident Evil 8. So it's very interesting. There's a lot of stuff going around at the moment. No one knows if it's true or if it's not, but I do know that who's that guy? Dust Golem, I think his name is Dust Golem. He is kind of on the mark sometimes. He wasn't too on the mark when it came to Silent Hill reboot or whatever they were trying to do with that. But I do think that Konami are a bunch of liars, and I do think they might have lied. So he could have been right, and they've just denied it. As it is, he's been right about other leaks in the past regarding Resident Evil 7, RE2, you know, remakes, so an RE3 remake as well. So I do trust him to an extent, definitely. He's been spot on with a lot of different things. So after reading the leaks and making this video, I don't know how I feel about things. There's certain things that interest me, certain things that don't. I'm a little bit skeptical, I've got to say that, after the RE3 remake and the fact they're trying to just go in their own direction. And, you know, they didn't show a lot of respect to the original 99 Nemesis, and the RE3 remake suffers for that. And I feel like they're trying to go in their own direction again. You know, with RE7 they tried to maybe reel it back a little bit and create something that was something different, but still survival horror. I liked that it was a more contained story, a more sort of reserved game, you know, and the fact that it underplayed things. It wasn't as explosive as other Resident Evils, and it kind of brought it back to those memories of the old Resident Evil, the first Resident Evil. Even though it's not a patch on the original Resident Evil or the remake, it still did some things that I did like. You know, it went its own route, but it also paid homage and respect. This doesn't sound like that. This sounds like they're trying to, I don't know, copy Resident Evil 4 and then just add elements from RE7, and I feel like it's going to be more action-packed and be more action-focused, and that I don't really like. But this is just me thinking out loud, essentially. Like, I don't know what it's going to be like. We haven't seen any images, any gameplay, and Capcom haven't confirmed anything. In fact, they've denied any, you know, rumours and leaks exist at this moment. So we just have to wait until we get to see some images or, you know, some gameplay. It's scheduled for a 2021 release. I think that might be pushed back due to the C virus pandemic at the moment. I shouldn't have said pandemic, should I? Fuck it, I'll be alright. Yeah, so I think it's going to be pushed back a little bit like Last of Us has been, Last of Us 2. And I'm cool with that, to be honest. You know, I'm not in any rush at the moment to get a new Resident Evil game, I've got to be honest with you. I like to let things just breathe. I was perfectly happy back in the day to just have a Resident Evil every, you know, so often and wait for it. Wait those 2 or 3 years. And I'm not talking about Nemesis because that did come out like a couple of months after 2. But yeah, I don't mind spaces of time between Resident Evil titles. If it means they're going to get it just right and perfect, then I'm happy for that. I think the thing that failed the Resident Evil 3 remake is they're not the same development team as Mikami and his team. And the magic just wasn't there for a second time at the end of the day. It was there for the 1999 game. It wasn't there for this remake. It was rushed out the door. And at the end of the day, there's a reason why it was packaged with Project Resistance, because that's where Capcom want to make their money. That's the truth, whether you want to believe it or not. Why was it packaged with this online pile of crap? Because they wanted to make money from that, and this was just to entice older fans and people who wanted that remake. So it was definitely rushed, but the magic wasn't there. Unlike Mikami and his team, the magic just wasn't there, and they couldn't pull it off. It was a big feat. So was the Resident Evil 2 remake. That was a big feat, but they kind of pulled that off with the Resident Evil 2 remake. With this, you know, remake, they didn't, unfortunately. So, you know, I know they're trying to pull a Ubisoft or an EA where they're trying to just get these out annually, and that means we're going to lose that perfection and just time to let things simmer and change things and all that stuff that makes Resident Evil games as good as they are. Do you know what I mean? Every single RE game that's come out that's been a banger, been a hit, has always had an early version of that, and they've had to scrap it and go back, you know, start again, redo it, whatever. But it's always led to a really good product, and we're going to lose that quality of product, definitely, if they keep trying to just bang these out every year. I will say this though, I will end with this. RE8 seems to have been in development for a long amount of time, a long period of time. Now I'm not sure if that's the game that people have said they scrapped or they're keeping on the back burner, and Revelations 3 was just banged out really quickly and that's what they've made RE8. I'm really not too sure, but as far as I know, it's been in production for around maybe 3 to 5 years, I believe, 3 to 5 years. I don't think the RE3 remake, no matter what they say, was in development for that long. I think they got it banged out after RE2 remake. I literally do. It's way too lazy as a remake for them to have been working on it for a long amount of time. You know, so with RE8, I believe that maybe it's had a longer development time. I mean, there's been loads of ideas and stuff and they've scrapped things, so that means it's probably been in development for quite a while. So that is interesting, and there is some hope for that game, definitely. We'll just have to see, like I said, in the forthcoming months. Hope you guys are keeping yourself well. You know, stay home, don't bother going out unless you need to get supplies, essentials, all that stuff, yeah. So yeah, keep safe. And if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and smash that like button for me. Subscribe to the channel if you're a Resident Evil fan. And yeah, I'll keep you updated with RE8 news. Until next time, I've been SystemCheck66, and once again, I'm signing out. Peace.